Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Seung-Yun Kim, your moderator for 2021 UN War Veterans Future Generation Peace Camps Talk Concert. Due to COVID-19, this talk concert will be held virtually. I would like to thank you all again for joining us. Today's talk concert is going to be an opportunity to talk about the episodes and the memories of our grandfathers who participated in the Korean War, and we will also talk about your stories who are going to lead the future. At this talk concert, we also invited a very special guest. We have Ta-Sung Choi, a history teacher, and we're going to discuss Korea and UN War veterans. Now I'm here with him. Ladies and gentlemen, please give him a big hand. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is so nice to meet you all. Can you give me a heart? Thank you so much. Yes, we're going to have such a meaningful time together. Can I say fighting? I know Koreans do it, but I know foreigners don't do it. Anyways, nice to see you. Nice to meet you. Yes, thank you, Mr. Choi, for being with me, with us together. Since we're all together, we're going to have an official photo opportunity at the end of talk concert. So let's do practice. I'm going to say peace camp, and you are going to do V's with both hands, you know, the symbol of peace. And then please shake your hands like that on the camera. Okay? Yes, thank you. Just like that. So let's go to the very first corner of this talk concert. The first corner will be reading out loud a poem. We have Patrick William O'Connor's poem called Korea. And war veteran Patrick William O'Connor is now being located in the Canada Cemetery of the Peace Park. You can see the poem right now popping up on the screen. Please think about the meaning and read along, our participants. We're going to have a foreign representative, Sude Kaya Serlo Nuklu. Whenever you're ready, please go ahead.
Yes. Hello. Sorry. Yes, I'll read it right now.
Yep.
So the poem is called Korea. There is blood on the hills of Korea, 'tis blood of the brave and true, where the 25 Brigade battled together under the banner of the red, white, and blue. As they marched over the fields of Korea to the hills where the enemy lay, they remembered the brigadier's order, these hills must be taken today. Forward they marched into battle, with faces unsmiling and stern. They know as they charged the hillside, there were some who would never return. Some thought of their wives and mothers, some thought of their sweethearts still fair, and some as they plotted and stumbled, were reverently whispering a prayer. There's blood on the hills of Korea, it's the gift of the freedom they love. May their names live in glory forever, and their souls rest in heaven above.
Thank you very much. And now we're going to ask Ji-won Ha to read along the poem. There is blood on the hills of Korea. 'Tis blood of the brave and true, where the 25 Brigade battled together, under the banner of the red, white, and blue. As they marched over the fields of Korea, to the hills where the enemy lay, they remember the brigadier's orders. These hills must be taken today. Forward they marched into battle with faces unsmiling and stern. They know as they charged the hillside, there were some who would never return. Some thought of their wives and mothers, some thought of their sweethearts so fair, and some as they plotted and stumbled, were reverently whispering a prayer. There is blood on the hills of Korea, it's the gift of the freedom they love. May their names live in glory forever, and their souls rest in heaven above. Patrick William O'Connor.
이 대안의 언덕에 흘린 피.
There's blood on the hills of Korea. It's the gift of the freedom. What a touching line there is. This morning I was so excited and I was enjoying freedom. And I feel like the reason why I am enjoying this very day is because of the sacrifice of war veterans who came all the way to Korea. Yes. It was very touching, a little bit sad, and also heartwarming. Thank you very much for reading the poems for everyone. And now we have a video to watch together. You remember listening to the interviews during the launching ceremony 2 days ago? Today we're going to have our foreign participants videos. They film their videos at where they are and also from their houses. So let's watch what they have to say.
Annyeonghaseyo. My name is Rachel Cote from Windsor, Ontario, Canada. I decided to join the Peace Camp this year because my grandfather fought in the Korean War, and it's always been a super important part of my family's heritage. My grandfather always speaks so highly of Korea, and he loves going back to visit. So I just thought that this would be something special that the two of us would be able to share and do together. And I also thought this would just be an amazing experience for me. And yeah, I'm super excited, and I really look forward to meeting you all and participating in the camp this year. I can't wait.
Hi, I'm Olivia Zawiski, and I'm from Buffalo, New York. My great-grandfather, Don Lantinier, served as a radio operator in the United States Army during the Korean War. I love to travel, golf, and I have a bunch of pets. In 2018, my mother and I traveled to South Korea with the Descendants of Korean War Vets program, and I fell in love with the culture and history of South Korea. I'm participating in this program to learn more about the Korean War, the culture, and to share these experiences with new friends around the world.
Hello, I'm Tristan Courtenay. My grandfather Vince served in the Korean War when he was around my age. I'm greatly honored to be able to participate in this camp and be able to learn more about the culture and history of Korea. I believe it's very important that we learn our history to be able to ensure our rights for freedom and democracy for our future.
Hi, my name is Sude. I'm Turkish American, and I'll be briefly discussing why I joined Peace Camp 2021. So I've actually heard about Peace Camp before from other participants, and they said that they had a really good time and they just made a lot of new connections with other people. I also really love that this is aimed towards the descendants of the Korean War, because I'm able to meet other fellow descendants. I'm also a master's student, so I think that this event is going to be perfect to network with new people just for future opportunities. I think that the biggest and most important reason for me to join Peace Camp is that we're all going to be reminded of the Korean War, which we shouldn't be forgetting about. And this is just one of the many opportunities that the Korean government has provided for us descendants of the Korean War. So it's crucial for me to attend and show my support as well. Overall, I'm very thankful for the Korean government, and I'm positive that this is going to be a great learning experience and a chance to network with other people for all of us attendees.
Thank you very much for sending over these precious videos. So now we're going to go into the very first story titled Gratitude and Memories. So we have Tristan's story, who is a descendant of Canadian war veteran. Let's hear his story.
Hello, I'm Tristan Courtenay, and I would like to share my story of my grandfather, Vince Courtenay, who is still living and is a Korean veteran, and share his story from his time in the war and after. He was very young when he joined when the Korean War started. He was 15, It took Canada several weeks to decide to send Special Forces Infantry Brigade to Korea. That decision was made about a week after he turned 16, and he signed up with the Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry. In Canada, he saw the war as an unfair attack on the humble people who were not well equipped to defend their country. North Korea, on the other hand, had many squadrons of Russian tanks and well-equipped field armies. Although he was very young, he saw on television how the invading armies were destroying South Korean nation, and he wanted to help. You had to be 19 to join the Special Forces. Since he would have to lie about his age, he added a full 5 years to that. That way he would get an ID saying he was 21, and so he would be able to go into the bars in Canada. Actually, he never received that ID card, and after the war, when he left the Canadian Army, he was still 2 years young to go into the bar. He served in the major battle on the position called the Hook, not far from Panjuma. The enemy had submachine guns, and he fought with old bolt-action rifles like the one his father used from the First World War. The enemy had many cannons and mortars, and most of his men were killed or wounded by shells or mortar bombs. Every year, when he returns to Korea, he places flowers on the graves of 12 of his comrades. All of them except one were killed in the Battle of the Hook. He designed and raised money to place a monument to Canadian fallen in the United Nations Memorial Park, where 2,200 fallen soldiers from 11 nations were buried. The monument has a life-size statue of a Canadian soldier taking Korean children to the cemetery to visit the graves. He did that so that people could see that real young men had come to Korea and lost their lives to defend the nation. He thought it would be more meaningful than a small bronze tablet that marked their graves. If the Korean government did not bring family members of these fallen soldiers to Korea, none of their relatives would ever visit the graves. The distance is too far and the cost is too much. For 20 years after the war, it was very difficult to enter Korea. My grandfather spent nearly 3 years in Korea working on the monument and also doing voluntary work for the Republic of Korea's Korean Veterans Association. Since then, the work of visiting veterans and other commemoration programs have been taken over by Korea's Ministry of Patriots and Veterans Affairs. Actually, he started to do all of the work to help veterans and their families because he felt so sorry for the veterans who fought in the terrible war and then come home to nothing. There was no thanks, no civic welcomes. Many of the soldiers were scared for the rest of their lives. None were ever the same. So he worked very hard for more than 20 years to try to gain them some recognition and improve their status. The Canadian government began to respond, and when it launched programs to help veterans, the people became more aware of what they had achieved in Korea and how much they have given and suffered. He has returned to Korea every year for about 25 years, except in 2020 because of COVID pandemic restrictions. And he admires very much the energetic, highly talented Korean people. They excel in every area of human endeavors and are on the leading edge in many technologies. Their contributions to stage and music and film and novels are priceless and bring much needed beauty to their world and ours. 14 years ago, he developed the Turn Toward Busan ceremony to honor the Korean War fallen. Every November 11th, veterans from all over the world turn along GPS plot lines to face Busan, where the graves of the United Nations Memorial Park are located. At the same time, Korea's Ministry of Patriots and Veterans Affairs hold a magnificent ceremony within the Memorial Park. It is without a doubt the largest, most sincere, and most expressive of any Korean War commemoration ceremonies held anywhere in the world. My grandfather is now 87 years old, and many of his friends are in the 90s. Only about 5% of the veterans who returned from the war are still living. It is a joy to meet with them and when he returns to Busan for the Turn to Busan ceremony. Because of health problems, this will probably be the last time he returns to Korea, the country that he loves so much. He is not alone in this. His friend, Canadian's ambassador Michael Dang-hor, tells me that there are 30,000 Canadians living in Korea. It's a well-kept secret. This is the story of my grandfather, Vincent Courtenay. I'm greatly honored to be able to call him my grandfather and to be able to hear all the good that he's done in his life and also to be able to share the story with all of you today. Thank you for your time.
Wow, what a wonderful story. I was so shocked to hear his story. You know, November 11th, that is, for Koreans, it's like a pepper day. It's like a little snack day where we share chocolate cookies with one another. But I'm a history teacher, and I don't think November 11th should be remembered as a day to share snacks. We should always remember November 11th as the day for a turn toward Busan. I want many more Koreans to know that it is time for us to commemorate and have a moment of silence facing the GPS plot line in Busan. Actually, I've been working on making this to be known to many more people in Korea, and I know that this was initiated by a very important Canadian figure, and now I am talking to Tristan, who is the direct descendant of the war veteran. So it is my great honor and privilege to be here in the same space with you. And now it is very time for us to be thankful for the ones who sacrificed their lives to help Koreans. Yes, we have been talking about gratitude and also memories. I see so many people, so many young people on the screen gathering. I want to have a discussion session. Is there anyone who would like to say something about memories and gratitude? Anyone who would like to share your idea? Anyone? Please raise your hand and just freely speak. There's no borders. So many participants from different countries are joining us today. What is the most memorable or thankful memory that you have? If you want to share a thankful incident or story with us, please feel free. Nobody? Yes, I see someone shaking. Yejin-pyo? Yes, please turn on the microphone and share your grateful stories. My story is going to be very short and quick, but let me share. So my grandfather was injured in a war, and he had to go through multiple surgeries. As he came out from the surgery, he was reminded of the terrible incidents and bombing during the war. But even though the memory was hurtful and painful, I just want to tell my grandpa and that I'm really thankful for what he did. So during the surgery, I was right next to him. I wasn't right next to him. I just heard from my mom that that was what happened. He had these scenes of wars right after he was getting up from the anesthesia. Yes, that's not only a personal story, but also a story of our life. So please also say thanks to your grandpa on behalf of me. Anyone who would like to share your own story too? Yes. Christian? Sorry, I'm not good at English. Christian Lei? Please turn on your microphone and share your story of memories and gratitude. Christian Lek?
Christian Lek. Could you turn on the mic? Oh, yes.
Hi there. So, I think I'm most grateful for how my grandfather has been treated after the Korean War. He's one of 4 veterans left in South Africa. And you guys show him the utmost gratitude and appreciation. And I think the Korean War was a very difficult time for everyone, for all the nations involved. And he suffers with a lot of memories of loss and destruction. But I think how you treat him afterwards and how he feels the appreciation and the love and the friendship, he says it was all worth it for unity and peace. And yeah, so I'm just most grateful for that.
Yes, the fact that you are remembered, the fact that you are appreciated and recognized, I think that program is very important. Continuing the program is very important. Thank you for sharing your story. And yeah, we believe that we are going to continue this work so that we compensate and also give thanks to all the ones who sacrifice for our country. So basically, we are here as one earth. Everyone, so many people are gathered from different countries. Let's move on to the next one. I am so excited for the next one as well. The next one will be coming from the Philippines. It's the story of the father of May Young. Can I hear your story? Hello. Hey, I want to present in Korean, but because it's been only 4 months since I started learning Korean, I don't think I'll be able to deliver my presentation in Korean. What? But you're so good. You sure you only spent 4 months? Yes, so as a result, I think I'll deliver my speech in English. Please understand.
Okay.
My name is May Young, the youngest child of Major Max P. Young. Speaking before you is a rare privilege, so I pray you will be even more proud of our forefathers who fought together 71 years ago. The Philippines was the first Asian nation and 3rd member state of the United Nations, following the US and the UK, to send combat troops to the Korean War. In 1950, the Philippines was a 4-year-old republic, just recovering from the Second World War. But when President Quirino announced back then that our country was sending troops to the Korean War, many Filipinos enlisted. 7,420 were chosen, completing a total of 5 battalion combat teams. On September 19, 1950, after 4 days at sea, my father, among 1,400 Filipino soldiers of the 10th Battalion Combat Team, arrived in Busan. They were the country's only armored tank battalion. My father said, when they arrived in Busan, a band played very loud music, very loud, and it greeted them, making them feel like they were heroes being welcomed home. That year, Korea was experiencing its coldest winter in 200 years. When I arrived here in February, I called up my father and I told him, Dad, the winter here is very cold. And he said, yes, the winter in Korea is freezing. I did not dare complain because I was in a hotel room under quarantine. Unlike me, when my father arrived in Korea in 1950, they pitched tents in the open field. And sometimes, he told us, they would wake up and there would be water snakes inside their tents. These snakes left the cold of the winter to go inside their tents where it was warm.
어떡해.
Almost 2 months after arriving, they fought the Battle of Mudong. This is the first battle won by Filipino soldiers on foreign soil. They made history for the Filipino people as well. On November 11, 1950, the 10th Battalion Combat Team defeated 2 battalions of North Korean People's Army in Mudong and Singye. This is where the bravery of my father was recognized by your government. He was inside an M24 Chaffee light tank when they were ambushed. He got out of the tank and fired the big 50 caliber machine gun on top of the tank, completely exposed to enemy fire. 66 years after his heroic act, my father was given the first class Taeguk Order of Military Merit, the highest military decoration for military bravery and valor given by the government of the Republic of South Korea. He is one of only 14 valiant soldiers to receive this award. Among the 14 include your General Im Chung-sik, Lieutenant General Lee Han-lim, and General Douglas MacArthur. Today, my father stands with our former President, Fidel V. Ramos, as one of only 174 Korean War veterans still alive in the Philippines today. 71 years after the Korean War, I would like to thank the Republic of Korea for honoring my father and all of his fellow veterans. This month, on July 30, my father will be 99 years old. Or, for Korean standards, he is 100 years strong. 감사합니다.
Wow, thank you very much. What a great story to listen to. I know that for Philippines, I think the Korean War had a very important significance. If you look at the 500 peso in Philippines, which is Philippines currency, there's the Korean War. Like it's a picture of Filipino soldiers going through the 38 line, demarcation line of the Korean peninsula. They played a very key and significant role in terms of the victory of the Korean War. So thank you very much, and it was a great and wonderful story. Now it is my honor to invite the very person, Appa, the father of Mei Young. He's now 100 years old, right? Did I say it correctly? Yes. Let's invite Mr. P. Young. Are you here with us?
나와주세요, 선영님.
Yes.
와!
You for inviting me to be with you today. I am Major Maximo Purisima Yang, Philippine Army, retired. I served in 3 international wars: World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War. Because I fought in these wars, it is my duty to tell of you, delegates, to this 2021 Peace Cup, that you have a very important role in building a better future today. In this Peace Camp, I am grateful that you are here to remember the sacrifice of your grandfathers. But understand that there is something more better than remembrance. and that is action. When our troops arrived in Busan over 70 years ago, we have weapons like grenades, machine gun, and tanks. Together with brothers from different nations, we did not fight the war. We fought for freedom to achieve peace. Today, the fight for freedom continues. Today, you are the soldiers with a very lethal weapon. In that war, we have grenades. Today, you have the weapons of influence. Use your influence to spread what is true, because with truth comes real freedom. Before, we have machine guns. Today, you have weapons of curiosity. Use your curiosity to discover how you can protect the precious freedom you enjoy. During the Korean War, I commanded 4 armored tanks. I received the highest military honor from the Republic of Korea because of my heroic act during the Battle of Myeongdong. Back then, the tanks were our best weapon. Today, your best weapon is all over us is time. Here's the time you have on your hands to do your share in thinking and creating a better future for your nation. You are the future, and because of you, the future is bright. Use your freedom, use your weapons of influence, curiosity, and time to pursue peace. And if I may aboard your struggle with your peace, your purpose for the future. Thank you, and God bless. Salamat po sa inyo lahat.
I want to stand up and salute Major P. Young. I can't quite stand up because of this microphone, but thank you so much for your great story.
You are my hero. 네, you are my hero.
Thank you very much for such great and inspiring words, and please stay healthy.
건강하셔야 합니다.
The more I hear all the stories, I feel more touched and impressed of all the great works they have done. It's a great opportunity, and I didn't know I was able to hear the stories. I have prepared some stories for everyone today. Can I share some stories with you too? Yes. So, to be honest, to share with you, I'm kind of like a celebrity in Korea because I talk about history. I'm a teacher that talks about history. Yeah, I can't kind of show off how famous I am in Korea, but yes, I am quite famous. Anyways, so today my topic and my lecture would be UN war veterans and the Republic of Korea. The picture and during the World War II, this colonel was a pilot for a jet bomber, but he made a mistake. He dropped a bomb at an orphanage in Germany, right? What a terrible mistake to make. And he didn't know. He didn't mean it, but that happened. And after that accident, he was forever indebted about his terrible mistake. And later, the Korean War broke out, and then he decided to participate in the Korean War in order to pay back what he did wrong. And because of his mistake, he had hearts for orphans. And as a result, he took care of more than 1,000 orphans and tried to find find a way, and they thought and secured a boat in Incheon. And it took 3 days for them to ship 1,000 orphans to the port of Incheon, but they found out that the size of the ship was too small. And what they did was there was an airplane stationed in Gimpo Airport, it's near Seoul, and then they booked this plane, and they knew that they could only use this plane up till the 8 a.m. in the morning of the next day. So they only had about a few hours to ship 1,000 orphans to Gimpo from Incheon. It's about like 30 kilometers apart. So I know that we have to ship the orphans on military trucks so that they could go to Gimpo and get on this plane. And as a result, these 1,000 orphans could fly to Jeju, and they landed safely. Of course, it was a violation of law, and later he was put to a court ruling. And what he said was, anyone would have done it, and I would have done the same. I can't be called a soldier if I'm going to ignore dying children. And that remark is also very touching and at the center of humanism. You know, there are hundreds and thousands of orphans who were saved by these sacrificial and noble acts. And these people are the ones who achieved the miracle of the Han, who led the economic revitalization of the Republic of Korea. They not only participated in the war, but they're the ones who built today's Korea. They played a very important and key role. It's not our history, it's what's happening right now. It is at present. So I would like to take this opportunity to show my gratitude to all the UN veterans. Yes, thank you very much. We tend to think that history is history and it is what happened in the past, but now we had a chance to learn about what had happened in the past, and this past didn't end in the past. We heard stories from the descendants of war veterans, and as we hear these stories, I think what's personal and what's individual could be a noble act and also an act of sacrifice for someone else. So now let's move on to the second topic of the talk concert. It's going to be peace and friendship of future generations, and we prepared 3 different stories. The third story is going to be delivered by Philip Sheffield. And he's going to share the story of Korea. Okay, so we'll give you some time so that you can figure out what to do, and then we'll move on to the next participant and then go back to you. Yes, thank you. Okay, then let's move on to the next story, which is from Mexico, Irais Ramirez. And she's going to share with us the story of her grandfather. Where are you, Irais?
Where are you?
이라이스 지금 마이크
Hi. 나왔다. 이라이스.
Irais, could you start your story? Irais.
이라이스
어디 있어요, 지금?
Well, my grandfather is Jose Villarreal. He is a Mexican veteran of the Korean War. He was born in 1930 in LA, in the United States, but he grew up in Mexico City. At the age of 19, he was seeking for adventure, so he returned to his native country. And then he was enlisted to the U.S. Army. After 2 months of basic training, without imagining it, he was sent to fight in the Korean War. And on the eve of his 20th birthday, he fought in the Incheon landings and days later in the second battle for Seoul.
인천 상륙작전.
Actions for which he was awarded. He fought for peace and justice in Korea until April 1953, and it was one of the 100,000 Mexican soldiers that fought in the Korean War. The Mexican soldiers nowadays are forgotten because they fought a war at the other side of the world with another army, the U.S. Army. However, nowadays the Mexican and the Korean government are working to bring recognition to these soldiers and their families, and we are very thankful for that. My grandfather never forgot his incredible experience in Korea, and he wrote a book named Memories of a Mexican in Korea. And he told us some experiences in the war, but also he told us that it was a very difficult stage in his life because he thought that he was going to die in Korea and never come back to Mexico. But fortunately, he returned safely to his country. And that helped him to guide his steps to continue fighting for the good of others. My grandfather died, just passed away on May 1st of this year. But thanks to the integrity, kindness, and courage that I always instilled in him, today I tell you that his desire for freedom, justice, and empathy are an example that future generations will follow. And imagine today that our grandparents with our same age fought in a war. Bring me a feeling of honor and astonishment because of that, it's very important to remember their actions and bring honor to them. Thank you.
The more I hear it, the more I listen to your stories, I get more touched. And he was the hero for the Incheon operation of chromite. Thank you so much for sharing this beautiful story, also the heroic story. As you just shared with us, I think, back in the past, young people, they didn't even know what was going on. They didn't know where Korea, this little tiny peninsula, was located. But they were brave enough to sacrifice their youth, their life for another country. And I think it was because they believed in peace and freedom. And peace and freedom not only apply for them, but also for us, the present generation, and also the future generation. It's such a universal value that we all need to pursue and seek. I see your beautiful faces on the screen. We're different in terms of races. We are differently located. Our countries are different. But we are willing to get together and collaborate and talk with one another because we believe in the same values. When we are inspired by these stories, I think we can do anything that we want to do in the future. So, what about Korean participants? Is there any Korean who would like to share their own stories for our foreign participants? Anyone who has a story about their grandpa or grandma, please raise your hand. Okay, then let's try with another person. Any Korean participant who would like to share your story besides So Young Jung? Jiwon-ha, would you like to go? Oh no, Bae Ji-young?
배재현님? 아까 허재현님 하시는 것 같고.
배재현?
배재현님. 네, 배재현님. 네. 배재현님 마이크 켜시고 한번 말씀
Can you hear me? Yes, we can hear you.
네, 들립니다.
Wow,
오,
I'm so
감사합니다.
thankful.
네. 어이구야, 글로벌하네요. 말씀하세요.
Hello everyone, my name is Jae-hyun Bae. My grandpa was a colonel and my grandma was also a nurse during the Korean War. During the war, they relied on one another and then they decided to marry one another. So the Korean War, of course, there is a lot of sad memories, but it was also a memory where they spent their life together from. The reason why we can picture our future together is because of these war veterans who decided to join the Korean War. So we will forever remember what they did for us, and I'm going to be forever thankful for what they did. What? So they're comrades, right? I think I've never heard of this type of story. During the war, they made love, right? They just became lovers and married couple for life. I'm a history teacher, but I don't think I've ever heard of a story like this. Yes, the Korean War was definitely a tragedy, but even in the midst of tragedy, there could be a beautiful story included in the war too. Anyone else who would like to share? Soyoung-jung, you want to share? Ji-won Ha? Yes, please go ahead. Hello. I also participated in another similar event 5 years ago that was prepared by the Ministry of Patriots and Veterans Affairs, and it was very memorable for me as well. So 5 years ago, that was before COVID-19 broke out. And because it was a time where COVID wasn't there, many war veterans, foreign war veterans, were invited to Korea, and the scale of the event was very big. And I also volunteered as an interpreter, and I had a chance to talk to grandpas who came all the way to Korea. And what was touching was that at that time the river was totally frozen during the Korean War, and then all the bridges were bombed. So there were no bridges left. It was very confusing. And then they were suspicious whether the country would be able to recover from the ashes of the war. But after that, a few dozen years after, they came to Korea and then saw all this development. And what they said was, you should be proud of their country. You should feel very proud of their country. And I remember this, hearing this from war veterans back in 5 years ago. Yes, thank you very much. We listen to these types of stories, and if you think about what is happening right now, there are still people who are suffering because they do not have freedom. There are young people, there are youth who do not have freedom. And I think we need to join our hands, and we should do something for them as well. I think this is the message that war veterans would like to deliver to us. All the youth gathered here today are now preparing that very future for the ones who do not have freedom. Thank you very much. Any other stories to be shared? So I think this is going to be the last story. Elida Asimgil from Turkey is going to share her story. And because she wants to share her grandma's story to a more wider audience, she has been working very hard. What? She's going to share in Korean? Yes, I'm going to share it in Korean. What? Hey, okay. Hello everyone, my name is Elida. I'm a descendant of a Turkish war veteran. Currently, I'm studying at Korea University. And then, of course, the reason why I knew about Korea was because of my grandpa. When I was young, grandfather always talked to me about how Korea was in the past. And in the past, in 2002, my grandpa came back to Korea. Just like the previous story, he told me how a different Korea looks compared to the past. And after that, and I found out that the Turkey and Korea have the brotherhood. And I came to Korea, and then Koreans didn't even know that we're brother countries, especially the young people, like teens or people in their 20s, did not know that Turkey and Korea had that special relationship. As a result, I landed in Korea, started YouTube, and I wanted to spread this message. Not just a culture, but also a history of Korea. I want to share everything about Korea to global audience. And also, as a descendant, I'm going to make my grandpa's memory more worthwhile to think about and to be shared. And we should always not forget what they did for us. Thank you very much. Okay, well, I'm going to invite you to my YouTube to talk about your grandpa's story. Oh, why not? Yes, so what's so interesting is that my grandpa's story is at the War Memorial Hall. If you go to the Turkish booth, you can see my grandpa. Yes, I listened to your story, and then I actually visited Turkey once, and I said I'm Korean, and then what they said was, "Oh, brother." Turkish people said brother as soon as I said that I'm from Korea. So we are connected in history, and we shared blood together. And what I wanted to talk about was that through these stories of war veterans who came to the Korean War, we can think about what we should be viewed as, what we should be looked as for our future generations. When our descendants think about what we did, then, what should we do for our future generations and also for ourselves? What do you think our future should look like? As youth, what direction should we take? Anyone? Yes, I see a volunteer. Thank you very much. Yebin, I see you raise your hand. Please turn on your microphone and yes, I can hear you. I know there's a saying that there's no future for the people who forget their history. So we should always think about what happened in the past. We have to analyze the past. We have to analyze history. We have to look back on it. We have to reflect on it, and then think about the future direction. That is very, very true. The fact that you can volunteer to fight for peace and freedom and to be able to relocate yourself to a nation that you've never been to, that is an amazing action. And if there are regions in the world that are oppressed, if there are people who do not have freedom, then we need to be interested in them. We need to listen to their stories. We need to be involved in their freedom and what they would like to do. That's called empathy. That's called the sense of communication and sense of unity. Anyone else? Lyle? Lyle? May, can you share your story, please?
매영.
네, 지금 저희가 연결하고 있습니다.
네, 연결됐네요.
네, 말씀하세요.
Hi. The question earlier was the direction that we need to take. And I remembered
그렇죠.
the way that my dad said earlier, they had weapons before, they had guns, grenades, and tanks. I think we need to take advantage of the time that we have because that's our best weapon. And with the time that we have, let's think of ways to promote peace. And the way he mentioned, You can do that by staying curious and making sure that we use our influence, because we are all people of influence wherever we are. We can influence our immediate family, we can influence our friends. And I like what one of the Korean volunteers said earlier: if you don't look at the past, our future will not be bright. So let's continue to remember, but still take action by being curious, by spreading the truth, and by pursuing peace in our own way.
Oh my gosh, what a great message. Thank you very much, May, for sharing your thought with us. We tried multiple times to connect with Philip. I think, Philip, I hope this works. Philip, are you ready to share? Philip? We can hear you! Finally, Philip! Thank goodness! Thank goodness! Thank you so much! I've been...
All this waiting.
Well, I'd like to first thank everybody for sharing their stories. It's just been, I've never really learned much about the Korean War in school, and learning just so much from y'all has just been super helpful and super informative, and I really enjoyed learning about this. Even though I'm getting used to the whole virtual world, you know, COVID, I'm still having technical difficulties like everybody else, so bear with me, but I'd much rather be at the Peace Camp in person. That would be my goal, to hopefully make it there one day. But as far as Zoom calls, it's definitely too early for the time difference, but either way, I'm excited to be here, and because we're all gathered here because of our family descendants that served in the Korean War, I'd first like to thank and honor them for their service. I mean, everybody who participated and served and helped in any way, fashion, or form, it's just an honor to meet them and to talk to them and definitely hear their story. But my grandfather was one of those people who spent time on the DMZ, and I never heard much about it from him. He was very closed about it, and he was always very, he never talked about it much. And I know he had a rough time over there, and once I started talking to him and started opening up to me, it became more of a conversation that he was willing to have, and he eventually got to go to Korea on one of y'all's war veteran trips, and that completely changed his view and mind about Korea entirely. I mean, he came back with nothing else but good things to say, and he was really impressed with the progress from when he first saw, and, you know, how Seoul was just in ruins, and he was really impressed to see how much it's grown, and how not only your country has grown, but how it extends y'all's help to other countries. And he really did enjoy his trip, and he was also awarded he was presented the Ambassador for Peace Medal by the Republic of Korea, and that was super, super honorable for him. He was so happy to receive that, and it just made his world. And then coming back to America after his trip, it was all he was talking about. And of course, Korea produces some of my favorite cars. I love Hyundai. I love the Genesis, favorite vehicle. So I'm more than excited to be a part of this program, and I really hope to learn more about the history behind this wonderful country and meeting new people. That's my goal. I wish the best of luck to everybody.
Thank you very much for your wonderful words. Finally, we were able to talk to you, Philip. I think now you can, rest finally after the talk concert is over, instead of being so nervous or stressed about this network condition. Yes, what a beautiful story. He suffered so much during the Korean War, and it was so painful memories that he couldn't even share any details with you. But then now he came back to Korea and saw the exchange, transformation, growth, and then he was proud of Korea and he started talking about even like Korean companies or products. What a touching story. Thank you very much. We will also work hard and in terms of our growth and also commemorating your services. What was interesting and impressive to me was that, when they came to Korea, they did not know. The reason that they decided to go to Korea was because they saw people were suffering in this little tiny country, far away from their home country. So this is the connection. This is the value that humans share. We share the value of peace and sacrifice as human beings. So I'm going to try to connect to So Young Jung one more time. If we can't hear you, then no more opportunity. Can you share? Oh no, we can't hear you, So Young. So sad. Yes, later, please send us a message and we're going to receive it and then share with other participants. Thank you very much. So this is everything that we have prepared. Thank you very much, Taejang Choi. And also, we would like to send thanks to every participant. Thank you very much for being with us. And before we end this event, we're going to have a group photo opportunity. As I told you earlier, before we begin the event, please lift up your hands. Yes, make V shape with your fingers, and I'm going to say Peace Camp. And then what you're going to do is shaking your V's in front of your monitor. Please make bright smiles towards your camera. Let's do practice. Peace Camp. Yes, shake, shake, shake. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. One more time. We're going to get a better picture this time. So maybe lift up your fingers a little farther up from your face. This is the real one. Peace Camp. Thank you very much. You look beautiful. Thank you very much for staying until the end with us. I know that we are in different time zones. Thank you very much for your active participation, sharing your story. Thank you for being with us. For peace and freedom, war veterans sacrifice their lives, and it's really hard for us to find any story that's similar to this. But thanks to you who are willing to commemorate their sacrifice, we can continue the great work, and we can share and build friendship, overcoming different nationalities and different borders. So this brings us to the conclusion of the 2021 UN War Veteran Next Generation Peace Camp Talk Concert. From July 22nd to 24th, we're going to have virtual Peace Day. Please enjoy Peace Day programs with your team members. For the ones who are joining us from overseas, please continue to work hard so that we can make this Peace Camp safe and sound. Thank you so much for being with us. My name was Seungyeon Kim. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Have a great night.